Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Reading some of these stories has reminded me of an encounter I had about 7 years ago. I was keeping a very detailed diary at that point, trauma therapy related. So I have all the details logged as well as all the information I got afterwards. A little bit of background is in order here. I grew up in a very abusive household. Berating, gaslighting, emotional blackmailing, hitting and screaming were all on a daily basis for the first 23 years of my life, until I had finally saved up enough money and mustered enough courage to leave that hellhole of a place. I have moved to a different town about 2 hours by train, found myself a small apartment and a quiet job as an office assistant. I have also started therapy as soon as I settled in to become more of a person instead of a big pile of poo. My parents made me believe I was. Now, unpacking all the baggage wasn't easy, and in the first 2 years of therapy I was a wreck. High functioning but still a wreck. I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and a couple other things on top. I was fortunate enough to have such understanding colleagues and at least didn't have to worry about my job or income on top of everything. With that out of the way, let's get to the actual encounter. It was about 10 months after my move. One Saturday after a really long crying episode, I went to the fridge to find out it was empty, save for a lone pickle in a jar. And I needed to go get some groceries if I didn't want to live on crackers and pickle water. I totally wasn't in any shape to go anywhere where there might be other people, but it was my fault for postponing the trip for so long. So I have just pushed myself to get dressed, brush my teeth and hair, grab a shopping basket, and go to the nearest supermarket, which was incidentally the same chain I was working in part and full-time when I was still living in my parents' house, which was incidentally the same chain I was working in part and full-time when I was still living with my parents in the other town, which really wasn't surprising since the chain is in like every bigger town. So I walk into the shop already shaken and anxious and trying not to attract any attention to myself whatsoever. I grab a bit of produce, a carton of milk, several packets of ham and cheese, some yogurt. I'm almost done, just a bag of sugar, some pasta, a ketchup, and I can pull to the register. I am telling myself so when someone taps me on the shoulder and I'm immediately triggered, meaning most of my system shut down in order not to do something stupid. I slowly turn around to see an angry-looking woman that could be my mother, which is acting as another trigger, nervously tapping her foot on the floor. Can I help you? I managed to get out through the fog because my polite system stays operational at all times. About time you noticed me. I've been talking to you for about 3 minutes by now. Where is that coffee that is supposed to be on sale? It takes me a while to process what she was saying and formulate an answer. I don't know. I don't drink coffee. What do you mean you don't drink coffee? I didn't ask you to drink it, you dimwit. I asked you where I can buy it. At this point, the lady is practically screaming at me, at which point I start to back away from her, and then everything goes blank. The next thing I knew, I was staring at a hospital ceiling with a throbbing pain at the back of my head and a nurse leaning over asking me how I'm feeling, to which I'm asking her what day and time it is and what the hell happened. She frowned and said, "It's Sunday, 8 p.m. and apparently you hit that shelf pretty hard." I just let myself fall asleep again because I seriously wasn't in any shape to think straight at that point. On Monday, my therapist came, helped me call my workplace since I definitely wasn't coming to work for a couple days. Then 2 police officers came in to take my testimony and ask if I want to press charges, which has taken me aback. Like me? Suing someone? For what? Apparently, after I started backing down from the woman, I shut down for good. and started frantically pleading with her to please not hurt me, while she continued to scream and close in on me, until I could not step back any further, at which point she got so upset, she grabbed my shirt and yanked me to her to be close to my face, to which I have instinctively reacted by pushing her away with as much force as I could. Since she didn't expect retaliation, she lost her balance, let go of my shirt, and we both went backwards. She landed on the tile floor bruising her butt, while I hit the shelf behind me head first. The security guard and one of the employees got there at about the same moment, so they saw us fight and fall. The security guard went to help the Karen, still screaming at the top of her lungs that she wants me fired for being rude, while I was curled up on the floor, hands around my bleeding head, crying and promising, "I'll be good, just don't hurt me anymore." Anyway, police and paramedics came. Officers scooped up Karen after seeing the camera footage, while paramedics scooped me up and got me to the hospital with a fine brain concussion. It turned out that Karen was originally from the same town as me and saw me working at the supermarket there regularly, so when she happened to be in a different town, it didn't occur to her that I'm not working in that particular store. And since she was somehow acquainted with my mother, who most likely told her what a piece of trash I am, she treated me accordingly. Or at least, that's my conclusion. To this day, I'm not aware of any other interaction between us and this. I ended up pressing charges after consulting my therapist. I think Karen got charged with assault, destroying property, and something I don't really remember and apparently didn't bother writing it down. And she ended up in jail for 2 years since I got head injury, and my lawyer didn't miss the opportunity to throw in my mental health state as well. I didn't set foot in that supermarket for at least a year afterwards, just bought a new shopping basket and went elsewhere. When I eventually did go back, I ran into that employee that was there during the incident, and they told me a couple details the police and doctors omitted, like the part where I was crying and begging on the floor. I've had a couple more encounters with Karens after that in various places, but by that time I was fortunately way better off mentally and never broke down like that again in public. This whole event took place my sophomore year in high school. I hadn't quite physically matured yet and stood at all of 5'4". I generally got a lot of crap from kids because I was the easy target. I was a star soccer and a baseball player who was respected for that, but still got to hear the constant jokes from anyone who felt the need to make themselves feel better. I had an AutoCAD/drafting teacher who always loved to make jokes about my height and girls. I was somewhat timid and shy due to self-esteem issues, so I never really spoke up for myself and responded to his remarks. It is almost as if he would make a point to say things in front of the class to make them laugh. Eventually, my friends and peers realized I hated it, so even they stopped entertaining me. One day, I finally decided to speak to him after class, asking him to stop because I was embarrassed and couldn't concentrate in the environment. And his response was, "Damn it, stop being such a coward," and to get out of his room. I never forgot this. One day I came in and I had just gotten my learner's permit to be able to drive, so I was showing it off to a friend. The teacher came over and exclaimed, "Look everyone, they are given 10-year-old licenses now." He then grabbed a stack of 4 encyclopedia books and told me I could have them in case I needed to sit on them while driving. Well, it just so happened that he was going through a messy divorce at the time. Everyone knew about it because his wife was cheating on him with another teacher at school. Being a day before Valentine's Day, I had bought a rose from the little booth at school to give to my crush. Reaching my breaking point, I confidently held the rose up and asked if he wanted the rose to try and get his wife to love him again, or if I should just give it to Mr. Johnson, teacher his wife cheated with, to give to her. And he absolutely went ballistic on me and lost his crap to the point of freaking out and having teachers come across the hall to see what was going on. When he finished his outburst, and I had a second to speak, I calmly responded, "With all due respect, I think you should take your own advice and stop being a coward." In that moment, I thought he was going to physically assault me, and I was ready for whatever would happen. He left for the day shortly after. Being this took place on a Friday. I showed up Monday expecting discipline or the class to be awkward, but instead the guy's father had filled his spot as a teacher and stated that his son was checked into a mental health facility. I initially felt bad, but then I thought about all the crap he gave me, and I never felt remorse after that or since. He had the option to stop and decided to push it further, so I did what I needed to do to end it. This was a turning point in my life because I learned to speak up myself to accomplish things and not sit on the back burner all the time. I eventually matured into my 5'11", 200 pounds frame when I saw him around 5 years later at the store. He didn't recognize me at first, but when he did, he came up to me and apologized and told me he was a jerk and took his frustrations out on me. Being an army veteran, he said he had thoughts about killing himself and killing me, and he informed someone, which led to him being involuntarily committed to a VA mental health facility. He eventually thanked me because he said he finally received the help he needed. Obviously, this was never my intention, but I got my revenge and he got help. It's a win-win scenario. This was so long ago, in the very early 80s when video arcades were all the rage. My cousin and I worked crappy jobs, decided to open a video arcade, rented the building, repainted the place, had signs made, all the things that cost money before you make money, and were completely flat broke. Opened the arcade and had a lot of traffic, including the local bully and his minions, which completely turned the atmosphere sour when they showed up. The bully eventually wanted to show dominance to us and punched the hole in the sheetrock wall. I was furious and was ready to take him and his gang on. My cousin, on the other hand, laughed. Bet him $5 he couldn't do it again, next to where the hole was. And he did it again, and my cousin gave him $5. Another round of hitting the wall, another $5. The bully is $10 up in liking this money and attention. Then my cousin bet him once again he couldn't do it for $5, and the bully took him up on the bet. This old building had lousy sheetrock, brittle and easy to knock holes in, but it was built with rough sawn hardwood studs in the walls that had been drying into nearly steel and strengths for 50 years. The guy wound up a punch, let it fly, hit the wall stud, and it wasn't sheetrock we heard breaking. With tears running down his face, holding his destroyed hand, he took off so no one would see him break down with the pain. About a week later, I saw him at the convenience store. A metal rack around his hand, several pins through his finger/back of his hand, and it strapped up to his chest, and asked him how he spent the $10. All I got was a lot of "frick off" and "just so you wait." But it doesn't stop there. He had claimed his hand got caught in a business door and was threatening to sue that business for his medical bills. When my cousin heard about it and informed the business of how the hand actually got damaged. With a little investigation, members of his gang rats him out. He wound up paying his own medical bills and was threatened with being charged with insurance fraud. Don't know if it actually happened. Later, he threatened to sue us, but the insurance company lawyer explained to him not only wasn't it an accident, but being a deliberate act he could be sued for damages to the building. And he backed down. About 2 years after that, he got his teeth knocked out in a fight, then tried to claim they got knocked out at his job. But someone informed the company what actually happened. He was fired, and they didn't pay for the teeth. Years later, I found out it was my cousin that informed his workplace. What reminded me of this? I just saw him 40 plus years later in life, in my 60s now, complaining about the arthritis in his hand and talking with a lisp from the still missing teeth. Apparently, he doesn't remember that I was the co-owner of the arcade and was 4 feet away when he totaled his hand. trying to pass it off as a workplace injury where he got screwed out of disability. But bragging he screwed the hospital out of the bill. Or remember that it cost us about $200 to replace the sheetrock and repaint the wall. $200 we really couldn't afford at the time. Well, $210 if you count the $10 in bully bets. Moral of the story, don't be a bully jerk. It will follow you for life. A few years ago, a few cousins came to live with us. Me, 18, my sister 15, my mom and stepdad, as her dad's girlfriend could no longer deal with one of the kids that I will call Ick. He was 16. Ick was very combative, constantly trying to pick fights and just generally trying to throw his weight around with me and my sister. Empathize was a try there. Well, one day I got pissed at him since he tried to make noodles but somehow managed to burn my school textbook. Partly my fault, I left it near the stove but not on it, and my mom made me pay for it out of my money. Upset, I spent a week trying to figure out how to get back at him. During this time, he had not showered once for at least 2 weeks, and I was getting fed up with this, as well as you could smell what room he was in, as well as recently in. So I took one of the bigger green peppers, not the small one, I'm not that cruel, and rubbed some of the juices on his underwear and put it on the top of his clean underwear pile. It was over a week before I woke up to him screaming that his privates hurt. At this time, I completely forgot about what I did, so I just ignored him till his crying started to annoy me, and I got up to see what was going on. My mom was trying to figure out why his privates were hurting and assumed it was a UTI. I did as well considering how he never showered and suggested he go shower, to which he told me something along the lines of to go pound sand. Shrugging it off, I just started to eat my cereal. His mom reluctantly began to get ready to take him to the doctor. It was not till after they were gone and I was in class did I recall what I had done and began to feel kinda bad. Especially when I got back home and he was just sopping in a ball. I tried to get him to go shower and change clothes, but he screamed at me to leave him alone, so I did.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.